Her shit is breaking up. I can't hear you. Exactly. So let's get it motherfucking started.
You can't hear me. But can you hear me now?
Okay, we got Marsh in this.
You can hear me? Okay, exactly.
Big Baddie, not the little one. No, your favorite baddie?
The baddies. Y'all always want to play with me. No, I'm tired of them playing with me. They always want to be like, they own stuff. Oh, I'm here, y'all book my flight. Y'all play for my travel, my life, just like everybody else. Stop playing with me. They want to. Stop. It's like, y'all mad. I came with my friend. It was a real my friend. They brought me back to fight Latifah because they act like nobody want to fight Latifah. Exactly. Let's just be 100, bro. So I entered the chat because they pulled me up like, all right, you want to come fight Latifah? Okay, come get a check, whatever. Then they want to carry this go home Roger with me. Like, to me, that's lame as hell. It's like, all right, bitch, you think that I'll just fucking crash motherfucking baddies or something? You think that I'll just pay my way? Exactly. No, it's like, you think I paid my way to pull up by myself? No, it was never that serious. Y'all cashed me out and wrote the check. I say Marsh on it next to baddies just like everybody else. Just like so let's get that out the way. Then it's like, y'all act like I don't give a fuck about nobody and their sister problems. I only follow Latifah again because I needed my lick back. I don't give a fuck about what her and her sister got going on. That shit.
They said it was just reality TV. They said it was just another loud face-chasing camera time. They said Marsh was just there. But the moment Chrissy and Rock's best friend finally opened her mouth, the internet froze like someone had unplugged. Reality itself, because this wasn't a confession. This was a leak disguised as casual conversation. And once it spilled, it didn't just stain Baddies USA, it set the entire franchise on fire. This makes the Kardashians look like a PBS documentary, because when Marsh broke silence, she didn't whisper, she detonated. One sentence turned into 10 screenshots. 10 screenshots turned into think pieces, and suddenly fans weren't asking who fought who. They were asking who planned what, who used who, and who got played on national television. See, Marsh wasn't supposed to talk. She wasn't supposed to confirm the rumors. She definitely wasn't supposed to say the quiet part out loud. But once she did, the illusion cracked. The producers looked nervous, the cast looked exposed, and the viewers realized they weren't watching chaos. They were watching choreography. This wasn't tea. This was boiling water. And if you thought Baddies USA was messy before, buckle up. Because what you're about to hear rewrites everything. You thought you knew about why Marsh was really there. Nobody questioned Marsh at first, and that was the mistake. In reality television, the most dangerous person is never the loudest one. It's the quiet figure standing just off camera, watching the chaos like a chessboard instead of a battlefield. Marsh walked into Baddies USA looking exactly like that. Person, calm, observant, almost invisible unless you were paying very close attention. And most people weren't. They were too distracted by flying drinks, screaming matches, and personalities colliding like bumper cars on fire. At face value, Marsh was introduced as Chrissy and Rock's best friend. Simple enough, loyal sidekick, emotional support, the type of person reality TV pretends doesn't matter until suddenly they matter a lot. But from the very first episode she appeared in, something felt off. Not wrong, just precise. Marsh didn't react the way new cast members usually do. She wasn't shocked by the environment. She didn't flinch when fights erupted. She didn't scramble for camera time or validation. She moved like someone who already knew where the exits were and which doors stayed locked. Viewers brushed it off at first because that's what viewers always do. They assumed confidence. They assumed experience. They assumed she was just built differently. But the longer Marsh stayed on screen, the harder it became to ignore the pattern. She was always nearby when tension peaked. She always stepped in at moments that felt legally convenient, and somehow, she always avoided being dragged into the mess herself, like rain sliding off a windshield. That's when social media started whispering. Not shouting yet, just murmurs. People asked why Marsh seemed untouchable while everyone else caught heat. Why confessionals treated her gently. Why producers didn't push her into conflict the way they pushed everyone else. It was subtle, but reality TV fans are trained detectives. When something doesn't fit the script, they smell it instantly. Then came the background digging. Old photos, old connections, old comments resurfacing. fans realized Marsh wasn't new to navigating volatile personalities or chaotic environments. She had a history of being close to high-energy figures without ever becoming collateral damage. That's not luck, that's skill. And suddenly, best friend started sounding less like a role and more like a cover. The real crack in the wall came when Marsh finally spoke casually, almost carelessly, about why she joined Baddies USA. No press release, no dramatic announcement, just a conversation that felt too honest to be strategic, which ironically made it more strategic than anything else. She explained that she wasn't there for fame, fights, or exposure. She was there because the situation surrounding Christian required someone level-headed, someone who understood how reality TV chews people up and spits them out. That sentence alone flipped the narrative upside down. Because it implied planning, it implied foresight. It implied that Marsh wasn't reacting to Baddies USA. She was anticipating it. And when viewers replayed her scenes with that context, everything changed. Her silence looked intentional. Her calm looked calculated. Her presence looked authorized. People started asking the uncomfortable questions that reality TV hates. Who suggested Marsh join the cast in the first place? Was it Christian? Was it production? Or was it a mutual understanding that someone needed to be there to keep things from going completely off the rails? Because chaos might sell, but lawsuits do not doubt the timing of Marsh's entry suddenly mattered. She didn't arrive during the honeymoon phase of the show. She appeared when tensions were already high, reputations were already fragile, and the stakes were already dangerous. That's not coincidence, that's deployment. And once viewers saw it that way, they couldn't unsee it. First reactions were explosive. Some fans felt betrayed, like they'd been watching a magic trick with mirrors instead of reality. Others felt impressed, calling Marsh smart for playing the long game while everyone else played checkers. A few defended her fiercely, arguing that having a stabilizing presence wasn't manipulation, it was survival. But even those defenders admitted one thing: Marsh knew exactly what she was doing. The cast reactions made things even louder. Suddenly people went quiet, interviews became vague. Social media captions got cryptic. You could almost feel the internal group chats heating up while public feeds stayed suspiciously clean. In reality TV, silence isn't peace, silence is panic management. Producers didn't deny anything, which was its own kind of confirmation. If the narrative was false, it would have been shut down immediately. Instead, it lingered, clips stayed up, conversations stayed alive, and Marsh stayed unbothered. That was the most telling part of all. She didn't scramble to clarify, she didn't over-explain, she didn't backtrack. She let the internet connect the dots on its own, which is exactly what someone confident in the truth would do. Viewers realized they hadn't been watching a passive character. They'd been watching a pressure valve, someone placed inside the chaos to regulate it just enough to keep things explosive, but not catastrophic. It was reality TV with a safety net disguised as friendship. And that realization hit harder than any fight ever could. Because it meant Baddies USA wasn't just messy, it was engineered. Not scripted line by line, but guided, nudged, protected. Marsh wasn't there to steal spotlight. She was there to make sure the spotlight didn't burn the entire stage down. By the end of this revelation, one thing was clear: Marsh didn't accidentally end up on Baddies USA. She wasn't randomly cast. She wasn't filler. She was a contingency plan. And once viewers saw her that way, the show itself looked different, louder, darker, smarter, and far more calculated than anyone wanted to admit. And that was only the beginning. Because once the public accepted that Marsh's role was intentional, the next question became unavoidable. If she was placed there for control, who else was placed for influence? And how much of what we call reality was actually choreography waiting to be exposed next? Once Marsh's explanation hit the internet, the story stopped being a theory and turned into a spectator sport. This wasn't just gossip anymore. This was fans rewatching entire seasons like they were studying surveillance footage. Every pause, every side eye, Every moment Marsh stepped into frame suddenly felt intentional. It was like discovering the quiet kid in the class had been running the group project the whole time while everyone else fought over the markers. Social media did what it always does when it smells blood in the algorithmic water. TikTok stitched Marsh's calm moments next to explosive fights, turning her into the unofficial narrator of chaos. Memes painted her as the firewall of Baddies USA. The one person standing between good TV and canceled forever. Someone went viral calling her the Kris Jenner of street reality television, except instead of a Bible and a blender, she carried emotional intelligence and plausible deniability. Twitter lost its mind. Threads popped up breaking down her screen time like stock market charts. Reddit users dissected production choices frame by frame, pointing out how Marsh always appeared right before situations threatened to spiral into something uninsurable. Fans joked that if Marsh wasn't in the room, insurance premiums would skyrocket. It was funny until it didn't feel like a joke anymore. Then came the cast reactions, or more accurately, the strategic non-reactions. People who used to overshare suddenly went quiet. Stories were posted with vague captions about loyalty, betrayal, and truth coming soon. The kind of posts that mean someone just found out the internet knows more than they wanted it to. You could feel the panic in the subtweets, the digital equivalent of locking your door and pretending you're not home. What really escalated the situation was how nobody outright denied it. No one said Marsh was wrong. No one said she lied. They danced around the issue like it was radioactive. And in reality TV, avoidance is an admission wrapped in PR training. If the narrative were false, someone would have blown it up immediately. Instead, the silence stretched, and every hour made Marsh's explanation feel more legitimate. The public reaction split into two camps. One side felt played. They argued that Baddies USA sold chaos but secretly curated it. They compared it to finding out wrestling is scripted. Except here the injuries, arrests, and reputational damage were real. They felt manipulated, like participants in an experiment who weren't told they were being observed. The other side admired the strategy. They said Marsh was smart, necessary even. They argued that someone had to be in the room too. Prevent real harm. That reality TV has evolved into something too volatile to leave unchecked. That Marsh wasn't a puppet master. She was a seatbelt in a speeding car. Still, even the defenders admitted one thing: the show wasn't as raw as it claimed to be. Celebrities began weighing in indirectly, which is how you know something hit a nerve. Influencers referenced plants in reality TV without naming names. Former cast members from other franchises chimed in, hinting that this was far more common than viewers realized. One ex-reality star said on a podcast that every chaotic show has at least one anchor, someone placed there to steer disasters just enough to keep them profitable. Nobody said Marsh's name, but nobody needed to dot the comparisons. Wilder. People said this made Bad Girls Club look amateur, that it exposed the blueprint behind all modern chaos-based television. That Marsh didn't break silence, she broke the fourth wall with a sledgehammer. And once that wall cracked, everything behind it looked suspicious. Memes escalated from jokes to commentary. One viral post showed Marsh standing calmly while flames consumed the background, captioned one, "You know what's coming." Another labeled her the quiet supervisor, which somehow stuck. Suddenly, she wasn't just a cast member, she was a concept. What fueled the outrage even more was how Marsh herself remained unbothered. No frantic Instagram live, no defensive posts, no sudden explanation tour. She let the internet spiral without interference, which only added to her mystique. People started saying if she really was just a bystander, she'd be fighting for her image. But she wasn't. She looked like someone who expected this moment eventually. Fans reanalyzed moments involving Chrissy and Rock with new context. They noticed how Marsh often redirected conversations away from cameras, how she physically positioned herself during heated exchanges, how she subtly diffused energy without drawing attention. It wasn't dramatic. It was surgical, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. The outrage reached a peak when viewers realized this revelation didn't just change Marsh's role. It changed everyone else's. Suddenly, certain cast members look less unhinged and more exploited. Others look less victimized and more complicit. The hero-villain lines blurred, and the show felt darker, less accidental, more deliberate, and yet people couldn't stop watching, if anything. The scandal made Baddies USA more compelling. Viewers tuned in not just for fights, but for subtext. They watched for manipulation, strategy, and unspoken power plays. Marsh unintentionally turned the show into a psychological thriller, where the real drama wasn't what happened on screen, but why it happened by the time the internet calmed down. One thing was undeniable. Marsh had shifted the cultural conversation. Reality TV fans weren't just entertained anymore. They were analyzing, questioning, distrusting, and once audiences start questioning the machine can never fully go back to normal. Because now everyone was waiting for the fallout. Not just for Marsh, but for the relationships she was protecting, the reputations she might have altered, and the producers who suddenly looked far less invisible than they'd hoped. And that looming question hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. If Marsh was the quiet stabilizer, what happens when the stabilizer becomes the headline? And who takes the fall when the safety net gets exposed? After the noise died down and the memes stopped refreshing, the damage didn't disappear. It settled quietly, permanently. Because scandals don't always explode. Sometimes they seep into the foundation and weaken everything standing on top. That's what Marsh's revelation did to Baddies USA. It didn't cancel the show. It didn't end careers overnight. It changed how everything was perceived, which is far more dangerous. Marsh herself became a paradox to some viewers. She looked smarter than everyone else in the room. The only adult in a house full of chaos. The one person who understood the assignment before the syllabus dropped. To others, she became the symbol of manipulation, proof that the mess wasn't as organic as advertised. And once a reality star becomes a symbol, they stop being treated like a person and start being treated like evidence. Relationships shifted immediately. Cast members who once leaned on Marsh began distancing themselves publicly, while still quietly orbiting her privately. Loyalty became a performance. Friendships looked rehearsed. Every interaction felt strategic, like everyone was aware the audience now knew too much. You could see it in their posture, in their phrasing, in the way they avoided saying certain names out loud. Chrissy and Rock's situation changed the most. Her dynamic with Marsh went from unquestioned loyalty to public speculation. Fans asked whether Marsh was protecting her or managing her, whether friendship crossed into supervision, whether support blurred into control. None of those questions had clear answers, but they didn't need to. The down alone rewrote the narrative around Christian's independence and agency. Production felt the heat too, even if they never admitted it. Editing choices became more cautious. Storylines felt more controlled. The chaos didn't stop, but it felt contained, like a fire being carefully fed instead of left to spread. Viewers noticed. Once audiences sense restraint, they assume guilt. And suddenly, every cut felt like a cover-up. Every omission like a confession. The long-term impact went beyond one show. Marsh's silence-breaking moment became a reference point across reality television. Other franchises caught strays. Fans started questioning who the Marsh was in every chaotic cast. Who was placed there to stabilize? Who was planted to guide narratives? Who was protected behind the scenes while others were sacrificed for ratings? That awareness changed viewing habits. People stopped just watching fights. They watched reactions, power dynamics. Who stepped in? Who disappeared? Who always seemed safe? Marsh didn't just expose a role. She exposed a system. And systems don't like being seen. Ironically, Marsh's career didn't implode. It evolved. She became more intriguing, not less. Opportunities shifted from loud chaos to quiet authority. People speculated she could move into production, consulting, or behind-the-scenes influence. The same traits that made her suspicious also made her valuable. In Hollywood, being perceived as strategic is rarely a disadvantage, but the personal cost was undeniable. Marsh could never go back to being invisible. Every move would now be scrutinized, every silence interpreted, every presence questioned. She crossed the line from participant to power player. And that door doesn't close once it's opened. Baddies USA continued, but the tone changed. It felt heavier, smarter, more aware of itself. The chaos was still there, but now it carried subtext. Viewers weren't just reacting emotionally anymore. They were analyzing motivations. And that shift created a quieter tension that lingered longer than any physical fight ever could. What made the aftermath truly unsettling was how unresolved it all remained. No official acknowledgement, no clean conclusion, just a collective understanding that something fundamental had shifted. Reality TV had blinked, and the audience saw the machinery behind the madness. Marsh never apologized, because there was nothing to apologize for. She didn't lie, she didn't confess to wrongdoing, she simply explained her reason for being there, and in doing so, she forced everyone else to explain themselves without ever saying a word. The final irony is that Marsh didn't ruin the illusion. She strengthened it by making it more honest. Viewers now watch knowing the chaos has guardrails, and somehow that makes it more terrifying. Because controlled chaos is always more deliberate than uncontrolled destruction. And the most dangerous question still hangs unanswered. If Marsh was placed to stabilize one situation, how many other situations are quietly managed the same way? How many friendships are actually strategies? How many fights are allowed? And how many are stopped before they ever reach camera? That question guards one thing. This won't be the last silence that breaks. It won't be the last revelation that reframes everything. And it definitely won't be the last time a quiet figure turns out to be the most powerful one in the room. The room. Because in reality television, the loudest people make the noise, but the quiet ones decide what survives. If you made it this far, congratulations. Because your reality TV innocence is officially gone. You didn't just watch a show, you watched the curtain get yanked back so hard it tore the rod out of the wall. And if that didn't make you side-eye every unscripted moment you've ever seen, you might need a second rewatch with your skepticism turned all the way up. Now do me a favor and smash that like button like it owes you money, because this algorithm needs to know you enjoy chaos with context. Drop a comment and tell me whether Marsh was protecting Christian, managing the madness, or playing chess while everyone else was flipping tables. I want theories, hot takes, and unhinged opinions. Because the comment section is where the real after show happens. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe like you just realized the drama never sleeps. This channel doesn't do surface level gossip. We do leaks, patterns, power plays, and the quiet truths hiding behind loud meltdowns. And trust me, scandals don't slow down, they multiply. Miss one upload and suddenly you're 3 controversies behind, wondering how everything went left overnight. Turn on notifications, because the next silence that breaks won't be this polite. Someone else is already sweating, another group chat is already on fire, and another accidental confession is loading as we speak. Reality TV doesn't get cleaner, it gets messier. And we're here to read between every single line. Remember, the loudest chaos grabs attention, but the quiet moves control the game. And when those quiet moves get exposed, the fallout hits different. Stay locked in, stay questioning, and stay ready, because this circus never closes. Celeb Ruckus.